So, dear students, in our last lecture, we have seen the kernel structure of MuCOS2 and some of the basics of intertask communication and synchronization. In this section, we will also continue the intertask communication, synchronization, and RTOS porting. So, intertask and interprocess communication in MuCOS2 takes place by using message mailbox and message queue. For the purpose of intertask communication, message mailbox and message queue are used. Message mailbox means simple array of mails where each task can send mail to another task, whereas in message queue, messages can be passed in between the tasks. So messages can be sent through kernel services, and the message mailbox is called as the message exchange, where the messages are exchanged in between the tasks, and waiting list is associated with each mailbox in case more than one task desires to receive the messages through mailbox. Each and every mailbox is having one waiting list that is associated with it, so that suppose any task desires to receive the message, more than one message through the mailbox, then the waiting list is essential for that. So the task desiring to receive message from an empty mailbox will be suspended and placed on the waiting list until a message is received. Suppose there is any particular task and uh, that desiring to receive a message but from an empty mailbox, means there is no mail for that particular task. Then at that time that task will be suspended and it will be kept into the waiting list until the message is received. Here one task will be post one mailbox, particular mail to the mailbox, but suppose any task is there which is not receiving any mail from the mailbox as it is empty, so it will be kept in the pending or waiting list. So for that the waiting list is associated with each mailbox. A message queue is basically the array of mailbox. So as our message queue is there in our mobile, the same system is applicable over here. The message queue is nothing but the array of mailbox where all the messages are stored. Through a service provided by the kernel, the task or an ISR can deposit the message into message queue. We can see over here, by using the particular service, any particular task can post any message to the message queue so that the another task can receive it. So the next part is interrupts in MuCOS2. In ISR is nothing but interrupt service written, which is written in assembly language. So the main pseudocode for ISR is and the main pseudocode is responsible for showing the tasks that are done by the ISR, that is saving all the CPU registers, means whenever there any particular interrupt occurs, at that time saving all the CPU registers has been done. Then call OSI enter or increment OS in nesting directly. Whenever the particular interrupt occurs, the increment has been done of OS in nesting directly. Then whatever the interrupt is occurred, that execution is done, that is execute user code to service ISR. After execution, the exit process is needed, that is called OSINT exit. After exiting, restore all the CPU registers and then execute the return from interrupt instruction. In this way, the ISR is executing. So even a different stack is used when the servicing an interrupt is continuously doing. So as the registers are saved on the interrupted task stat when the context switches occurs. Whenever there is the context switching and the task has been stored, a different task is used for servicing the interrupt. So the interrupts in MuCOS2 are OSINT nesting, OSINT enter, OSINT exit. So OSINT nesting can be incremented directly if your processor performs an increment operation to memory using a single instruction. Means whenever there is a single instruction that is used for incrementing the operations, so that our processor can do the increment operation directly, for that purpose OSINT nesting interrupt is used. OSINT enter wraps the three instructions with code to disable and enable interrupts. So for disabling and enabling interrupts, the OSI enter has been used. And whenever we want to enable the all the interrupts. At that time OSINT nesting is used, means for wrapping the instructions for enabling and for disabling the interrupts, OSINT enter is used, and for enabling the number of interrupts, OSINT nesting has been used. So some implementation of OSINT enter will cause interrupts to be enabled when the OSINT enter returns. So OSINT enter is responsible for disabling the interrupts. So whenever OSINT enter returns, that means what? If it is returning, then the interrupt can occur. So at that time interrupts are enabled. MuCOS 2 allows you to nest interrupts because it keeps track of nesting in OSINT nesting. So as we have seen, there are number of interrupts that can be enabled by the OSINT nesting. So MuCOS 2 allows to nest interrupts because it keeps all the tracks of nesting in the OSINT nesting. And ISR is marked by calling OSINT exit, which decrements the interrupt nesting counter. So for decrementing the interrupt nesting counter, OSINT exit has been used. So these are the interrupts that are used in MuCOS 2. Each and every interrupt is having its own purpose. So next part is RTOS porting. The RTOS porting is needed, and this deals with the simulation and porting of RTOS onto the target system. Now we know that it is necessary to deploy our system on the target system. So RTOS porting is responsible for simulation and porting the target system. For this, the hardware requirements are any PC with Windows 98 or higher for host purpose, any Pentium PC for target, floppy disk, and software requirement, the client server application, then the operation how the operation will be takes place, that execution, and the particular application for the RTOS. So the general steps for RTOS porting are, now as we are doing porting, first we have to check that whatever system we want to port, that is not already ported. So the first step is to make sure that it is not already ported. Determine how portable the various parts of RTOS code to find out which parts of the RTOS code should be portable. Then the as much as possible the high level language like C is used, as well as compiler, assembler and linker toolchain is used for RTOS porting. GTAC debugger is used, so we can inbuilt it, and it gives us easy debugging. Then the standalone IDE projects for ARM and for architecture that we are familiar with. So it finds which are the projects, are they IDE projects for ARM or not. Then find out the architecture of that IDE project, and the another ports if they are necessary for the RTOS porting, and the for looking the RTOS porting, RTOS ports which are of the ARM processor. So these are the general steps for RTOS porting, where first we have to check the particular system is not ported, then find out which part should be ported, then the high level language should be used, as well as the we should check which is the IDE project. According to that, the portability should be done. So these are nothing but the inter-task communication in detail, as well as the MuCOS 2 interrupts and RTOS porting in detail. Thank you.